My in-laws surrounded me in my kitchen, demanding, transfer this house to our real daughter, not some outsider. Mother-in-law added, blood family comes first. Father-in-law threatened, you'll regret refusing us. Sister-in-law smirked, finally getting what's mine. I said, over my dead body? My husband added, then plan a funeral, because we're not moving. Their shocked faces were priceless when security cameras caught their threats. Pause. What happened next? My name is Tess, I'm 28, and I've been married to my husband Stephen for 3 years. We bought our house 18 months ago, a beautiful 3-bedroom ranch in a quiet neighborhood that we absolutely fell in love with. Stephen has a younger sister named Wendy, who's 25, and parents Robert and Linda, who have always made it crystal clear that Wendy is their golden child while Stephen is just there. From day one of our relationship, Linda made subtle digs about how I wasn't good enough for her son, but also contradictory comments about how Stephen should focus on his career instead of marriage. Robert mostly stayed quiet but would nod along with whatever Linda said. Wendy? She's always been entitled and spoiled, expecting everything to be handed to her on a silver platter. The problem started escalating about 6 months ago when Wendy's boyfriend dumped her and she had to move back in with Robert and Linda. Suddenly, there were comments about how unfair it was that Stephen and I had our own house while Wendy was stuck living with her parents. Mind you, Wendy has never held a job for more than 3 months, has no savings, and has never shown any interest in actually working for anything. Then came the passive-aggressive hints. Linda would say things like it's such a shame that Wendy can't start her adult life properly because there's no room for her to grow. Robert started making comments about how family should take care of family and how blood is thicker than water. Stephen and I would just exchange looks and change the subject, but we both knew something was brewing. 3 weeks ago, things got more direct. Linda called me while Stephen was at work and said, Tess, honey, we need to talk about Wendy's situation. She needs stability, and you two have more space than you need. Maybe you could let her have the house and you could find a nice apartment somewhere. I was so stunned I literally laughed out loud, which made Linda's voice turn ice cold. This isn't funny, Tess. Family comes first, and Wendy is family. You're just. Well, you're not blood. I told Stephen about the call that evening, and he was furious. He called his mother immediately and made it clear that our house wasn't up for discussion, and that Wendy needed to get her life together instead of expecting handouts. Linda hung up on him. 2 weeks ago, Wendy herself called me. She was crying and carrying on about how unfair everything was and how I was stealing her brother's love and how she deserved better. She actually said, you don't understand what it's like to be the real daughter and watch an outsider get everything that should be mine. I told her she was being ridiculous and that she needed to focus on getting a job in her own place. She screamed at me that I was a selfish bitch and hung up. Stephen was livid when I told him. He called Wendy and apparently laid into her so hard that she started crying to Robert and Linda about how mean he was being. This led to Robert calling Stephen and demanding he control his wife and remember his obligations to his real family. Stephen told his father exactly where he could shove his opinions and that if anyone needed to remember their obligations, it was Wendy who needed to remember that she was a grown adult. The harassment continued. Linda would call at random hours asking to discuss the house situation. Robert started showing up at Stephen's workplace, cornering him during lunch breaks to talk about family loyalty. Wendy began driving by our house at weird hours. We'd see her car parked across the street just sitting there. It was getting creepy and invasive. Last weekend, Linda called.